Hello once again, DLC Book Club readers. That sounds corny. That's okay. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky. Hi, Lana.
Hello, good morning. I hope everybody's excited to talk about this book because I am.
Yeah, this is our second episode of the DLC Book Club. We are moving through Gardens of the Moon, the first of the Malazan Books of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. I got to tell you, I'm so delighted by the response we got from the first episode. It has been awesome. We even got a comment from Steven Erikson himself on the video.
The coolest thing. I can't believe that. You know, you messaged that to me and it's like, okay, he's obviously not, he's got like a Google Notify or something. But the fact that he clearly took the time to listen to what we said and respond to it, I'm very geeking out moment about that one.
Very delightful. Now I'm like, well, now when I say negative things about the books, I feel bad about offending people. But we're going to be honest. We're going to continue to be honest. And the other big piece of feedback that we got, the first episode, we did the first 50% of the book as reported by our Kindles, which was basically up through the third book in the first book. Very difficult. But it was the first half of the book. And many people said that was too much, too big of a chunk to do in an episode. And we agree. So this episode, we are just going to be focusing on book 4. That's not the fourth book of the series. It's book 4 within the first book of the series, because there's, I think, 7 books that make up Gardens of the Moon. So we're still just in that first novel. Maybe that's what I'll say. The first novel of the series, and then the books within the novel. So in Gardens of the Moon, the fourth book is called Assassins. Thanks for reading along with us. Thanks for commenting. It was really fun how many people checked into the first half of last week when we had no spoilers. And I want to come up with some ideas that we can have for these episodes going forward that retains that. So if you're not caught up, you can still have something to gain from the episode. So any ideas that you have, please let us know. You can comment on these videos here on YouTube, or you can visit our Discord, which is 5x5 DLC on Discord. There is a book club thread on our Discord and a Gardens of the Moon subsection of that thread, where some really wonderful discussions already happening. So I welcome you guys to be part of that. Yeah. All right.
So you messaged me yesterday thinking, oh, it'd be really nice if we had that first spoiler-free chunk.
Yeah.
And so I did think of something to
talk about. Oh, good. I should have checked with you before we started recording.
No worries.
What should we talk about? So, spoilers yet.
Well, that's one thing. I don't have things that are immediately directly explicitly related to Gardens of the Moon. Obviously, the first chunk, it's easy to give overall first impressions. Yeah. First impressions of the fourth book in the novel is still spoilers. And so, but one thing got me thinking about the series in general, and its notorious challenge that it sort of poses to its readers. And it got me thinking about, what are the types of things that do make you want to stop reading a book? Or what are you most hungry about reading a book? Because this book gives me everything that pretty much everything that I really like in a novel, in a story. And so I'm like, what is it about it that would make somebody turn away? And so
that's a great question. So first, I want you to enumerate the things that you think this contains that is what you love about reading.
What I love about reading is anybody who's just listened to me talk about books I read and how they like reading. I do like being trusted by the author to understand what's happening. One of my favorite authors, Scott Lynch, he does this a lot where he'll have somebody talking and it's a long thing of dialogue, but they speak to the person who's not present in those immediate words, and it tells you about what they're doing. Like some countess or something going on a long rant and then being, no. Yeah, the pink wine. And then she keeps talking, but it's one long string of dialogue. And then it's like, what? Don't be stingy, all the way up. I want a full glass. And so you can see this person, you can picture the scene that they're in off camera. And Gardens of the Moon has not tons of those, but a lot of moments where I do feel trusted. We do have the characters talking occasionally, saying something about the person who is like not in the shot, quote unquote, not in the shot at the moment. And in general, a lot of what we talked about in the first book of the promise of, you don't understand this now, but you will. You just have to. It's like a mutual trust. I'm trusting that the author will give me the information I desire, and I feel trusted by the author to understand it.
Yeah. No, I love that too.
One.
I do love that. I love there's a joy in making the connections yourself, instead of going, instead of the author explicitly setting it out in front of you and going, this person, this is that. And you making that connection, going, yeah. Oh, I get it. Oh, that thing that I saw before was this. There's a joy in that sort of puzzle solving, almost that connection that you make, that I definitely enjoy in reading. And I think Erickson is the poster child for show not tell. He doesn't explicitly say something to you. He'll show you almost to a fault, almost to the point where it's like, we're seeing every little thing that leads to, there are some sections in this one we're about to talk about, and I'll point them out, where I'm like, I kind of feel like that could have been trimmed. Maybe it is important later on down the line, and I think that's how these books are going to work too, is that there's going to be stuff that seems superfluous now, but much later will make sense or seem vital. But I love the showing of the moment, the stepping through of this and this and this, instead of explicitly telling you what is happening. And these books are fantastic at that. I also love the language. I mean, there's many sentences that I'll read multiple times just because of how eloquent they are, how poetic the expression of what is happening is. And that, to me, that's one of my favorite things about a book I will fall in love with, is the language, the use of language. And these books are rife with that. What is another one for you?
Another one for me is like fun dialogue and like distinct characters. And obviously these books have many, but all of them do have a distinct flavor. I feel like I understand the voices, even if I don't have like a perfect memorization of name to voice just yet. A variety of characters that all have a different and distinct flavor. And it's a particularly remarkable feat for this book because of how many there are. And I still feel like I get it. I get who Tattersail is. I get who Whiskey Jack is. And I learn more about them every time we visit them, or we're sort of seeing from their perspective. But they got a vibe, and I like a vibe. I love a solid vibe.
Yeah. And there's a whole variety. I mean, there's like innocent, kind of goofy characters. There's real sophisticated machinations, mastermind characters, and everything in between. And I think that variety. I mean, I don't recall. I've read a lot of books that use POV and switch POV frequently, but I can't recall a book I've read that switches POV this fast, this often. And how he will set a scene by showing you the different facets of everybody that's going to be involved in this. You see someone approaches and sees someone else. Then we cut to that person's POV and what they're thinking. And it's like bouncing back and forth between all of the players in a scene in order to sort of express the scene from all sides rather than put you in one person's perspective. And I suspect that's part of what's bewildering for some folks who read these books, because you are so often jolted into another perspective on the same thing. And as I said last episode, inside that perspective, you are constrained by the limitations of what that character knows. And so oftentimes one character will know something and another character will know something else. And the sum of those parts, as the reader, you get to understand, but each individual POV doesn't have that. And it's a really interesting style, and one I really dig, because, as I said before, like that, making those connections is really joyful for me. But I can understand how folks who are used to a more traditional, single narrative through a scene might feel like that's a little,
much. Yeah, just a little much.
Yeah. The other thing he does really well, I think, is start everything in media res, like throw you in to the middle, not start, a lot of books will be like, the little girl woke up and her mother called for her to come into the kitchen. And, 600 pages later, she's the princess who's saving the day, right? But we start with the very beginning of the day and completely, and we build each sequential moment that builds you up. And, great movies, great books, great narratives oftentimes cut right to the great part. And he is so good at cutting right to the great parts. But also that's, I think, part of that reputation of, I don't know what's going on, because almost everything's happening right away rather than you slowly ramping up into it.
Yeah, definitely. You got to really read into those context clues. There's even one scene in this book within the novel that I won't touch on specifically, where I was like, wait a second. And I went back a page. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it got me. It got me.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So when we talk on DLC main show, people know I'm pretty committed. I start a book. I think I could think of one book that I ever stopped reading ever.
Yeah.
Because I will just power through so that I could tell somebody about the bad experience I had. Because I love that. Are you the type to stop reading a book? What churns you out of a book? Is it simply just lack of those things? Is there something in particular that makes you say, not worth my time?
I used to be that guy that forced myself to finish any book I started. That was my whole MO, for the first half of my life, reading life, I should say. I was like, I'm getting to the end of this book no matter what. And you'd slog through it. And, I guess I didn't ever found the joy in just relating how awful the experience was like you have. But but I've gotten to the age and the level of free time where I peace out. And it's because there's so many other things I want to read. I won't peace out the first moment of agitation or first moment of boredom or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to give a book a chance, especially if I'm excited to read it. But at a certain point, and the question is, what is that cumulative effect that makes me stop? I think, well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you two concrete examples that happened very recently. One is a book I stopped at the halfway point, which, that's an investment already. I've read half the book. And I enjoyed the first half of the book, but at a certain point I really said to myself, this isn't going anywhere. I don't want to name the name of the book because it's a pretty popular book right now. And I enjoyed a lot of it, but I'm like, I get this. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it's going to surprise me at all at the end. And I'm kind of uninterested in finding out what happens, to be frank.
Do you go look up the ending? Do you flip to the last couple of pages and be like, and she saved the day? And or you're like, goodbye.
No, I peace out, man. I'm like, nope. I did not earn that knowing, so I'm fine with that.
Is it that you didn't earn it or the author didn't earn it?
I mean, maybe it's a little both. Takes two to tango, But the other one, funny. So the other example I have is right before deciding to read the Malazan Books of the Fallen, I decided I was going to read this other very highly regarded, more recent fantasy series. I will not name the name, but and maybe I'll return to it. But I literally read, Lana, I'm not joking, I literally read 3 pages of it.
Oh my
and I was
gosh.
Like, nope.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what it was? It was like the same sentence structure happened over and over and over again. In the first 3 pages, I was like, I can't take this. I'm seeing the sentence structure. It was the same. It was the same. I couldn't pay attention to what was happening because I was like, this author is using the same sentence structure over and over and over. It was like, something, this thing happened, adding fuel to the fire. This thing happened, pushing things to the west. This thing happened, opening doors to the mind. It was the same, always with a comma and then an ing verb and more information. It was the same sentence over and over. And I was like, I can't.
Descending into madness.
Yeah, I was like, this
all work and no play makes Jeff want to close this book.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not. Nope, moving on.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a feeling, I guess, when you go. I think, like with a movie, like with a TV series, I wonder if you have this situation. I feel like within the first few minutes of engaging with a piece of art like that, I can feel sometimes when I'm in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
When I feel like the creator got my back. Like you go, oh yeah. I regardless of where this is headed, I feel like they're competent. They have a plan. I feel in good hands, and I love that feeling. And I definitely get that with Erickson and these books.
Mm-hmm. I think that the difference for me is that for me, the only thing that ever turned me out of one book that I don't remember, I found a book on a bus or something, and I was like, I'll read it. What is the story? What an adventure. And it was like, it was so boring. I don't remember a character's name. I don't remember a word on the page. I don't remember anything about it. I fell asleep and I was like, oh, it's a cursed book. And I just left it where it was. So that's the only time. That's the only one. Because when you're like, I could see the sentence structure, that's the moment where this book now becomes an experience for anyone in my immediate proximity. I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to read this. It makes me feel insane because it's so bad. And people are like, that's not a good review. Why would I put myself through that? And I'm like, let me just read it out loud to you.
But I gave you that review from the first 3 pages, Lana. I'm done. I got it. I got the review.
Yeah, but no. Because I'm only more and more enamored the longer it goes on, I can't believe it's still happening. Oh my gosh, I'm on the 5th book in the series. It's still the same sentence.
You are going to love Lana's reviews of hitting herself on the head with a ball peen hammer. It still hurts 15 times later.
Oh my gosh. But proud to report, happy to report, Gardens of the Moon, none of them feels. Only
that's
joy.
One of the things I was so happy about is I knew you'd be with me no matter what.
Yeah.
I probably would have pieced out if.
I would have dragged you through it. It's a slog. Guess what? We slogging, baby. Get your galoshes on.
I'm very happy to report it is not a slog. I delight and I'm like excited about the hours I get to carve out to curl up with Gardens of the Moon. And from all accounts, the books get better from here. Like, so that's, I mean, I'm so thrilled by that.
Great. A colleague of mine messaged me saying that they listened to the first episode, being like, I just can't believe this. I'm on book 5. And I was like, okay, give me the 1-word review. Thumbs up, thumbs down, book 5. And they said, book 5, my favorite yet.
Wow. That's awesome. That's so
good.
Great.
So exciting.
Yeah, and I've loved seeing all the YouTube comments of people who are like, I'm so excited you're reading this. These are my favorite series of all time. So many people are on that train already. So I'm excited to be boarding the train. And the one, shout out to the one guy who was like, this would have been cool 15 years ago. Well, sorry, man. Late to the party. A little late to the party. But
you don't shut that guy out.
I've been meaning to. I like to
embrace
put people on blast.
Yeah.
All right. So, book 4, Assassins. Spoilers starting now for book 4, Assassins. I think a aptly named section of this book because there's a lot of assassins assassinating things, but that's not where things start. Oh, actually, first, let me ask you a broader question. How do you feel about this book as far as your reading experience this last week and how it relates to the other books? Do you feel like we're gaining momentum, losing momentum? Did you feel like this section was harder to get through, easier to get through, the same? What has been your take on this section relative to the others?
This section, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed I like sort of like the leapfrog of like the connection of these sections versus, I think it was book 2 that I don't remember what it was called, but it had a lot of, it had the assassins and like the big chase through the Darujistan of who we now know is Crocus, the coin holder. And so I like the continuation of that, but now it's like, okay, now we're going to give you all the details that you wanted when you were sort of reading that the first time. So relative to the others, I have like a particular affinity for like rogue underground thievery assassination stories.
So good.
I love those in general. So I really liked this book. That's for sure.
Yeah, we get some sick rooftop action. We get like dirty streets. We get conspiracies. Yeah, awesome stuff, and really full on like magery, as they call it in the book. You know, full on, you know, it's cool spells and cool spell fights.
But it was also intermingled with like a deeper understanding of like how does this city work, the politics of this city, how does the general flow of the assassination as industry in Darujistan. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
I kind of feel like this is the section of the book where all these disparate elements that we've been seeing are kind of coming together in one place, and we see Whiskey Jack and Sari and that element, the bridge burner element, sort of interacting with the Krupi and the Darujistan section, and it's always fun when all these different parts that have been working independently come together. So that was very pleasurable.
Go ahead. Sorry. And then I was going to say the explicit other thing that they did that I mentioned, like reasons why I like a book, through Krupi's dream sequences. They're like, also stuff's happening with Tattersail. You'll see later, I'm sure. They'd be like, something's happening. Some gods. He thinks it's a dream. We know it's probably not. Something's happening off screen. Great. Anyway.
Well, that's what I was going to say is we start this book. And, as much as I have said, I've been loving it, and I haven't really felt the bewilderment or the overwhelming nature of the story that people report. And I haven't been put off by it. Boy, this section was rough because it really is hard for me to wrap my head around what's going on with Krupi, because we're in a dream. Okay. Already I'm not. I don't love dream sequences. I mentioned that before. It's nothing against this book. Dream sequences in any medium, I'm always just like, come on, get back to the normal world. But but we're in a dream, and we're in a dream that's like, what, 3 millennia ago? It's at the dawn of all civilization is when we are in this dream. And we, Krupi is hanging out with a god. Okay, God's talking to a god, and with like the birth of all civilizations, what are they? The Rivi, and we've got this Rivi woman who has now been impregnated with the soul of Tattersail. She's gonna birth. She births a child that is Tattersail that we later learn is growing super fast.
She was she was in some zombie body. That can't be good. I'll just give her birth to a new body. She could have that one.
She was in Night Chills. I mean, that was her plan. We talked about that last episode. That her plan was, I'm gonna, and in order to avoid being captured or killed, I'm going to commit suicide, but knowing that I can stick my soul in Night Chill's preserved body in a bag. But that's no good. Like, we don't want that. So we're going to actually birth her into a baby body. Hard. I mean, these are, hard concepts to wrap your head around. And because also that happened now, and our dream is 3 millennia ago at the dawn of civilization. So did you interpret that as just dream logic? That's just dream logic. Things are in weird different times.
Yeah. So again, for folks who maybe, I mean, if you're listening to this, I assume you listened to the first one that we did. Jeff, I'm not using any sort of like partner book so that I can just see how much I naturally glean from the way I read. I definitely did not realize that was the dawn of time. I was just like, creepy dream. And then whatever happens in creepy dream, I don't like think about the specifics of it as much. I don't try to parse it because I think it is intentionally supposed to be like, it's a dream, but like because Tattersail's name is being involved, and you can hear like she doesn't have a body, she had a zombie body, we're making a new body. I interpret that as Tattersail is being born anew as this fresh body, whatever, with help from the gods, and all the other details I just sort of let wash over me and wash behind me.
Okay, fair enough. Clearly, there's a lot going on here, and I had a little of that wash over me stuff too, but also that is the like dense intermingling of all the 3 millennia ago people's where I'm like that to me is the least interesting stuff, at least now. Like we don't have, I don't have any way into it really, other than I am invested in Tattersail's fate. I feel like it's going to be, it's backdrop tapestry that'll probably be important later on. And even later on in this section of the book, we get more context of like, there were 3 main peoples and one of them died out. And, the others, turned into the zombie folk and all that stuff. So that's all, I think it's all important for the world building of the novels. But, that's the stuff where I'm like, it's not as compelling to me.
Well, the one thing I liked about it is like you saw that sort of discussion about those 3 initial peoples happen a couple times through a couple different lenses. You have it through was it Uncle Mammoth being like, hey kiddo, I'll tell you about the start of the world. And it is just about Darujistan and the rumor that founded Darujistan, but it still talks about like everybody came here and blah blah blah. And then later they're like, oh yeah, there's a crazy war and everybody was fighting over this thing, and the gods are like, there's 3 main people, and then they buried this one guy, and you're like, oh, the treasure is the tyrant that is buried in the hills who will possibly kill everybody because he's a tyrant. He'll do some tyrant stuff, that's for sure, is like all like the vibes you get. But you see how the story of whatever had happened back then has like changed over time, and how people interpret it based upon where they are, and like the books that like Mamet is writing. It's like, is that the full, true, accurate history? Probably not.
Probably not. I do agree. That is extremely cool that the city was founded on a rumor, and the rumor is this uber powerful tyrant was buried somewhere there, and everybody just came. All these different kinds of people came searching for that to get that power. Nobody found it, but in digging for it, they discovered all this natural gas that now fuels the city. And now there's all these tunnels that are like, some of them are collapsing, some of them are still there, some of them are still used, some of them are now Assassin's Guild hideouts.
Yeah.
Like, that is a rad origin story for a cool city. I'm super on board with that. But I'll read you this little section, or not, from the recap thing that I get, and I'll put the link in the show notes again. But it's Pranchol reveals that the Jaghut have dwindled, the Forkrola Sail have vanished, and the Kachane Shamali are no more. I'm like, okay, all right, moving on.
Sure. It does read a little. There's like one section in particular. Well, what I think is interesting is Kroopy goes to like the library later, whatever. He's reading a book and he's clearly looking for information about that he'd heard in the dream. But he's like reading the book that is ostensibly saying like the same thing that we just experienced. And he's like, like rolling his eyes like, this is so boring. Skip. So it's like he's having that experience.
Exactly. Erickson's like acknowledging it with his character. I also love that, what's his name? The drunk guy was like, 5 dragons! And he passes out, and everybody's like, how the hell did he know about 5 dragons?
But also, cool. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So then after that, I think is when this book, this chapter, this section, these 3 chapters, 11, 12, and 13 of the book, really kicks into high gear for me. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is our first Sari POV. Like, we're in her brain
since the beginning.
Yeah, since she was
possessed.
Taken over.
Yeah.
And I think what you said last episode is accurate, and I totally didn't get it. I think she has Raga, the witch, the candle witch, in there too. Like, she's got Shadow Throne, Raga, and the original
Her
little
girl.
all in there, all sort of fighting for control. Because somebody's, Whiskey Jack says seer, and she like gets triggered, she's
Yes,
because the seer's in there.
Yeah. And I also like that because we see from her POV, well, the combination of the time when Quick Ben goes into the Warrens and he shows that he has like a special power to like sort of get into Warren spaces where he's not actually welcome and invited. And he goes to Shadow Realm, Shadow Throne. I am so bad at remembering specific names. And reveals that he is somebody, like reveals that he has this other identity, and like Quick Ben actually was previously like a religious priest, basically, of Shadow Throne, and like a high mage, high priest in honoring this god, and then pieced out from that responsibility. I don't think it said why just yet, but he just was like, he dipped from that, which is like a death penalty.
Yeah.
And he's like, our suspicions are correct about Sorry. She is like on a mission or whatever from Shadow Throne to kill me because I betrayed my lord, basically.
Yeah.
And so I just love that tie-in because we sort of like see Sorry get possessed at the beginning, and then next time we see her, everybody's like, she murdering everybody. We know something is messed up about this lady, but we don't know what it is. And you're like, is she just trying to like kill Darugistan? Is she against the Empire? She's working with the Empire? Like, what's her deal? And it's like very specific. No, she wants to kill that one guy.
Yeah.
Or at least that's part of what she's around for.
And that sequence that you just brought up, the part where Quick Ben goes and is hanging out with Shadow Throne, and is like, "Hey, I know you love deals.
Yeah,
let's make a deal. I'll give you. Who does he offer up? He offers up. I'll give you.
No,
he offers to give Shadow Throne someone. Oh, it's Hairlock. He's like, I'll get you Hairlock.
Yes, yeah.
And in exchange, you don't assassinate me. And Shadow Throne's like, sweet, cool. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I'm that old guy you wanted dead. Bye. And he's like, Shadow Throne's like, no, you got me. I can't break deals. And I love the idea of of like the equivalent of the devil being like, I made a deal.
That's my whole thing.
So awesome.
Oh, it's so good. And just like the sassiness of I forget if he like asks him what his name is, or if he's literally just like, oh, by the way, it's, I forget his name.
Yeah,
I'm so bad.
Delot, I think.
Oh, by the way, it's Delot. Peace. Like the sassiest, unnecessary mic drop out there.
So cool. And then he gets back, and Callum's like, "How'd it go?" And he's like, "Oh, dude, it was so sick."
Yeah,
I totally like told him who I was, and he couldn't do anything about it. It's like, it's great, very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get so there's a lot of talk about this eel character.
Yes.
Do you think? So I feel like that could go one of two ways. That the eel could be a big reveal of someone we already know that is the eel,
mm-hmm.
or it could be a completely new character that is important because it's the eel and it's just new. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like I'm gonna lean towards new character.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too.
Yeah. Reading it was, again, I'm going to say this probably a million times as we're reading these books, it's one of the things I registered like, yeah, that'll be important, and I will learn about it when it is presented to me.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like how many of those little things are sort of teased at the sides. There's so many little threads that are not part of what is immediately important. I actually started going through and like highlighting in the Kindle things that are like happening off screen. That's like a little characterization of this thing. So I didn't actually highlight the eel. I should have. As like, that's something that we don't know much about. Crimson Guard is another one we don't know much about. And Kaladin Brood. We did get like, go ahead.
The leader of the Assassin's Guild keeps being referred to. Yeah, what is it?
Vorkin, I think.
Vorkin, yeah. That's another one where it's like, that feels like a bit, and everybody's like, is the leader going to be powerful enough to do this? Powerful. And I feel like that's going to be when that character finally takes the stage, it's kind of be a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the eel is in the periphery for me of thing where I'm like, interesting, interesting. I'll come back to you, but
Yeah.
for now, just live in the interesting space.
Yeah. Also, we get this I found delightful sequence with Crocus going back and returning the stuff he stole from the girl he's smitten with, Chalice. I thought that was cute. I love the idea of, Opon is using this to be the coin bearer. Everybody keeps thinking this, this kid is the most important person because Opon is using him as his pawn. And it's like, he picked a real doofus,
A perfect dum-dum.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is he?
Yeah.
He's a kid who has like a crush on someone, and there's like, the inkling of like a real Aladdin type, like,
yes.
like
so Aladdin.
That's
the perfect pull. It's so Aladdin. It's that scene where he goes to the window and the magic carpet is like, you can do it, kid.
And now he like goes to his uncle and he's like, make me a prince, like kind of like educate me. How fast do you think I could be basically noble? And his uncle's like, something's wrong with this boy.
Yeah, like I think they have Krupi and Mamet have that whole discussion about like, what's going on with this kid? What's wrong with I thought that was very cute. But then Sari's like, I'm definitely gonna have to kill this kid.
Yeah.
But what do you like Crocus? Are you rooting for him, or do you is he kind of feels like a lovable pawn,
Yeah, he's a lovable pawn. I guess I like him just from the characterization of him of in this world of like extreme tension everywhere all the time. He's like, I got a crush. He's like totally oblivious. He's like just like pickpocketing and stealing stuff, and they're like, there's more to life than this, and he's like, maybe anyway. He's like kind of oblivious. So I like seeing things happen around him because he's existing on purely serendipity in his life.
I mean, I love that sequence where he's like, oh sure, I'll pay for it. Oops, the most important coin in the world just fell out.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that, right?
And everybody's like, something unnatural is happening. He's like, not that one. And they're all like, okay, man, keep it. We don't want whatever that was.
I'll just put that with all my other money, I guess. It's so good. And Sari's like, oh, he's gonna die. Yeah. I also like how Sari just like takes a minute to just be like, think about all the people I've murdered. But the coolest section for me, the coolest stuff, obviously, in this whole and the sort of central thrust of this book, Assassins, is the assassins.
Yes.
And I think this is another point where I'm not sure I have my head completely wrapped around the high level machinations of what's going on. The specific stuff, super rad. Callum and Quick Ben, Quick Ben going invisible, making flying, them going there and being like, okay.
They got Featherfall.
The assassins all fighting on the rooftops and the cool fights and all that. That was all awesome. And Rallick there and all of that. So cool.
And like the setup to it of like through like them trying to interact. So you have the bridge burners, Callum and Quick Ben in there set to like, you have to make a contact within the Assassin's Guild, go do it. And Callum, who is the assassin, like the team Ocean's 11 assassin guy, he's like, this is how it's done. And it shows like from whatever his name is, the other guy.
Quick Ben?
No. The guy they're trying to meet up with, Rallick. Rallick is like, oh, this guy walked in. He's definitely assassin. And he like describes him as assassin-looking assassin. And then it cuts back to Callum, and he's like, oh yeah, he clocked me as an assassin. He's like, are you sure? Are you sure? And like Rallick and Quickben are both like, are you sure? Like with his Rallick with his guild leader outside being like, get back in there, go. Make the connection.
Yeah. Make sure you do something more assassin-y even.
Yeah, so that he knows that you're an assassin too. And then both of them have an understanding of like, we got it. And we know that we have to tail each other back to the secondary location.
Yeah.
And it's like, you learn about like this assassin like code society of like what's going on. But then all the while, you get like, oh, this isn't going to be the standard assassin meetup. I got a deal for you thing. It's like they think they're ending the assassin war that's happening, and Callum and Quickben are just like, we're gonna make a deal.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I don't understand. I mean, first of all, that's one of the joys of Erickson's writing that I don't know a lot of other people do, is how much fun it is when you're inside a perspective of a character that's just wrong about a thing. Most authors don't really do that because it can be potentially confusing because you're having a character express something that is misleading to the reader, but Erickson expects you as the reader to understand that it's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a joy to it because that scene when Rallick is talking to Ocelot, his handler, his like, assassin handler, and Ocelot's like, Rallick's like, I feel like there's two people and one of them is a mage, and Ocelot's, there's no universe where that's happening. Yeah. There's one guy, you're just not that good, and get back out there and be more assassiny. And it's very funny, it's like, but
we've all had that manager. We've all had that manager.
So true. So true. But here's what I don't, maybe you can explain this to me.
Okay.
On a sort of plan level, like what's so the bridge burners are coming to town.
Yes.
The Empress, Lacine, knows that they're coming to town to get. They want to make a deal with the Assassin's Guild to eliminate any potential problems.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to prevent them from doing that, the Empress just wants to eliminate the entire Assassin's Guild, right? That's the idea?
No. So the Empress wants to use the Assassin's Guild because she knows that like you pay them a good enough price, they will go and eliminate any problems that she'll have, so she can more easily take over Darujistan, which is a free city. Anomander Rake, who we finally see since Moonspawn in the flesh, sort of descends at the end of the chapter and shows what incredible power he is, how powerful he is. He dispels the demon in under a minute when they expected to like really keep those assassins on the rooftop busy for quite a long time. He's the one who sent the Tistandi assassins into the city to basically start the assassin war, or make it seem like there's an assassin war, by starting to kill off as many assassins as they could, because he wants to get to Vorkin and eliminate all the assassins so that the Empress cannot use them to infiltrate Darujistan.
So okay, that makes sense. So the Empress's plan was just to employ the assassins to do
kill
what?
All the nobility.
To kill the nobility.
So
okay, because like what they're doing in Pale, eliminating the nobility.
So eliminating the nobility and threats like Baruch the alchemist,
right?
Like the people who, as we see in this chapter, are identified as the folks who really run the city.
Right.
And so she wants to go in and use the assassins to anybody who could possibly fight back, anybody who would be in politics, anybody who could rally the people against her, just take them out of the equation.
Okay, that also makes sense. Now, the third element is the bridge burners.
Mm-hmm.
Their plan kind of doesn't make sense to me. Maybe you can clarify that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Callum and Quickben, their idea is like find the assassin, get to a place where we're going to kill each other, but be like, time out. Quick chat. I want to talk about actually offering you a contract. Is that what they were going to do?
So this is where, Callum is wrong. Like, you're in the perspective of him and you know that he is wrong. You don't quite know until you get to that meeting place. But Callum is operating under, standard assassin procedure. You meet up, you make eyes at each other, you tail each other back somewhere, and then you just have a conversation there. You don't, because you've recognized you're both assassins. You're not there to kill each other. You're there to, parlay and offer a contract. But once we get to that location, Ocelot is the one who reveals, like, we're not here to chat with these people. Ocelot thinks that Callum and Quickben are the assassins that were like chasing Crocus through the city and killing other assassins for seemingly no reason.
Anomander Rake's people,
yes,
stirring up a assassin's war.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Callum and Quickben think that it's either doing standard assassin stuff. We're going to chat, wait for each other to make the first move. Who's going to do it? Chilling on the rooftop. That's why they're so casual about it. Ocelot is like, oh yeah, we're going to kill those people because we're ending the Assassin's War tonight. And then meanwhile, third party and Amanda Rake's assassins are moving in. And then you see the difference in skill between what Callum is versus what Ocelot is. And Rallick is. You do see that Callum is a better assassin because Callum happens to have Rallick happens to have beefy armor, which prevents him from just getting obliterated by a crossbow bolt, while Callum actually ends up dodging things effectively and going away unscathed. And so they're both fighting, and Amanda Rake's assassins, both pairs ended up getting away.
Okay, cool. I appreciate you clarifying that because I was like, this plan doesn't make any sense to me, but I think it does make sense. And the actual like battle is awesome. The Amanda Rake show, we get inside a POV of a demon. It's a little confusing because like we're in a POV of a demon, but it's not the main demon that's super important in the section. It's just a dog demon that Baruch sent. It's Baruch's dog demon that was just like checking out everything out. And then it gets kicked in the head. And I don't know who kicks it in the head.
So whatever happens in the sky, I wasn't quite sure. I assumed just because Amanda Rake and crew descend from there later that it's like some of those Tistiandi folks.
Yeah.
And so I think that was just to show, Baruch's there trying to spy on whatever's happening. The Tistiandi are in the sky so that when they descend later, you're not like, from the sky? You're like, something was up there.
Yeah.
And I guess they fly. There's like magic there. Something's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that was his little dog demon. Was it the one that you saw in his alchemist chamber earlier where it like climbs on Crocus and he's like, get this thing off of me. Whatever.
Yeah, I think so. And then Amanda Rake brings it back later. But the bigger, badder demon is the one that Quickben throws the vial in it. It's one of the Empire's old demons.
It's Tashren's demon.
Tashren's demon. That's right. And that is one of the coolest sequences in this entire book for me. This entire, the Assassin's book 4 is the demon being like, hey, you want me to kill all those people? And he's like, yeah, cool. He's like, okay, cool. All right. And then Amanda Rake shows up. He's like, I'm gonna die. He's like, you're sending me to my death, dude. He's like,
what I love about that sequence so much is it felt so video game mechanic-y. It felt like, okay, at some point Quickben picked up this consumable and then you're like, what is this thing I picked up in my itinerary? I throw it down. A demon came out. Can you kill all these things for me? And it's like, yeah, all right, I can do that. And then I get to peace out. And then immediately, like how quickly the fear and intensity and like our understanding of the power of this person that's coming, that demon's like, all right, I can take him. Wait, do you see who that is?
You see the last one? Yeah.
I'm going to go to my death now. And he's like, I mean, you're the demon slave.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah. It was awesome. He's like, I will,
hold him off.
Oh, yeah, as long as I can. And he literally gets one block away before the demon. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah. It's a bummer. I felt like it was a bit of a bummer that happens off camera. Like we come back or off screen, we come back and see like the smoldering remains of the demon, and Amanda Rake's like, well, that was a demon I murdered. And I wish I could have seen that epic fight, but I understand.
Apparently it wasn't epic. Apparently it was like zap, and then the biggest thing that came from it, he's like, I guess the Empire's here.
Yeah. Super cool. And then we get some like backstory on Amanda Rake's sword, which is like older than a god, was forged. The god is like, yeah, that sword's older than me, dude. It's like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
We get that, the Callum was injured, stabbed, and Mallet has to heal him. And then we get Baruch and Amanda Rake talking. I think Baruch is one of my favorite characters. There's something really fascinating about this guy and the being an alchemist and like what he's got going on. I really dig all the scenes with him. He's got this little map, and then he's You do it. Oh, the other thing from earlier that I thought was a cool reveal is all of the construction that we saw earlier. It was the bridge burners like setting bombs. That's pretty rad. Anyway, interestingly, everybody's converging on Darujistan, but we also know that Lorne and Toole were headed there, and they didn't show up in this chapter, in this section, which I thought was fascinating because we know everybody's talking about how they're on their way to Darujistan, and that's bad and scary. And it didn't, as many forces as are converging on that location, they still haven't arrived yet. So I thought that was cool.
It's interesting, like the flow of it as it goes into this next book. You know, the last one, everybody's going to Darujistan, and now, you know, as sort of commanded by the alchemist, I think, and that crew, they're like, get Crocus out of Darujistan.
Yeah.
Whatever else, now like people are saying, get out of Darujistan. We're going to
Gadrabi Hills or
Gadrabi Hills,
Gadrabi Hills. Yeah, which is the name of the next book. So clear, and that's, I think, the location where everyone thinks the tyrant was buried, right? Is the Gadrabi Hills. So I think that's pretty exciting. I do have a sentence like right at the end of I'm opening my Kindle, right at the end of the chapter, there's a sentence that I think is so awesome as far as like fantasy writing, where it's just how many words in this sentence make any sense whatsoever. It's so great. It's like, it is Talan of the Imas, but what it touches is Omtus Falak, Jagahat elder magic. That's a sentence. That's a complete sentence.
Yeah, I love that. I highlighted one of my favorite sentences from this book as well. I highlighted it because like the tease of what's happening elsewhere. My favorite sort of sentence from this book was, the Crimson Guard, he recalled, 500 men and women without a shiny buckle among them.
Oh, it's so good, right?
And like what that implies, by who they are as a people, as soldiers, is like immediately so evocative. I'm so excited to hang with the Crimson Guard.
Yeah, me too. And it is it's proof of Erickson's facility with language. His that turn of phrase is so, and there's lots of those where it's like, ooh, what a poetic way to express that. I'm really enamored by his use of language throughout. Man, this one flew by for me, and I try to stop myself before so we can have a conversation without any foreknowledge of what's coming next. But I'm like chomping at the bit to read the next book. So
yeah.
So we'll have
do
more.
What I do, just cram. I felt like I was back in high school. I'm like, oh, right, tomorrow. Yeah, I'll be ready.
That's what I want. I want it to feel like you're reading, Kill a Mockingbird for Great Gatsby for high school.
No, it's only an awareness of my own tendency to procrastinate in favor of video games. I loved it. I'm also ready. I'm like, also. So I don't know if we plan to continue the weekly cadence.
I hope so. I think we'll see. We'll see. I don't want any pressure on it, but if it happens this way, I think it's a good cadence.
Yeah, I'm leaving. I mean, we can talk about this later. There will be 2 weeks where I won't be able to, and I will be on vacation, and it's going to kill me not to just read 5 of these books, Jeff. I got to pick up other books because otherwise I will go insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm loving it. Thank you, folks, for reading along with us and participating in the Discord and on our comments here on YouTube. I appreciate this. This is super fun, and I'm having a blast. So we will keep going, and we love to incorporate more of your thoughts, more of your comments, more of your questions, and I think having a beginning topic that's not spoiler, that's not really even about these books, is a great thing, and I want to continue it. So, folks, if you have ideas for what that could be, we'd love to hear them. We'll see you next time.
Are we going to do book recs?
Oh, yeah. You do a book rec. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead. What's your book rec of the week?
All right. Because, the theme was assassins. and this is not quite tied in with assassins, but when I think of some of my underground thievery assassin favorite books, Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. If you haven't read it, it is, if you like heist, you like seeing the underbelly of a city like thrive and survive, big underdog story with incredible characters and just amazing dialogue. I highly recommend this. It is the first in the series. I think it will be a 4, but it's currently just 3 books. I also could be crazy. I'd have to double check that. But there's 3 books out right now. The first one is The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's fantastic. Check it out.
Have you read the subsequent book? As I've only read that first one.
Oh, they're all great.
Are they good? Yeah.
Yeah. The first one is definitely the best one, but they're all fantastic. Great characterization. Locke's general insecurities the whole time, and overconfidence. A really resonant character for me.
I'm going to recommend not a fantasy book this week. But it is a book that meant a lot to me when I read it several years ago. And it's still on my bookshelf proudly. I will read it someday. It's called A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius by Dave Eggers. Dave Eggers has gone on to do a lot of other stuff. But this was his first book. And to have your first published book be titled A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius, that's chutzpah, that is some real come at me energy. But I got to tell you, it lives up. It's a sort of pseudo autobiographical story about him and his brother living in the Bay Area in the 90s and I guess 90s, early 2000s. And, that's where I lived in those years. And so it resonates for me. It's so beautifully written. It's so poignant and powerful. They live together, I think, because their parents passed away, if I recall. It's been a long time since I've read the book, but it's an amazing piece of writing and a book that I cherish. So it's one of my 5-star Goodreads, which I'm pretty stingy about 5 stars. So I cherish that book, and I think people get a lot out of it. Not a fantasy book, but really wonderful literature. All right, awesome. Hey, we love getting your book recommendations too. So please send those to us. And we'll be back next time. Until then, keep reading.
Woo.